yesterday. Keep in mind, again, we'll have tab giveaway, etc. at 4:50. We'll do that. And then the GitHub drink up is it starts at about 5:15. Right after, we're just going to walk right over. For those of you not familiar with the area, you can walk up to the top floor, and it's about a block to your immediate left. There's a very nice restaurant bar right there. We've got a great patio, and we'll do that again. The GitHub drink. The first 2 drinks are free on the guys at GitHub. So I see we've got a bunch of people coming in the room. So give us just a second. We'll let them be seated, and then we'll get started. Okay. All right. This is Nathan Marz. How many people have already heard him speak? That's what I thought. Everybody here to speak once for the second time. Nathan, again, I guess most of you already know, is the lead engineer at BackType. Heck of a, again, smart guy, extremely good speaker. So, Nathan, thank you for coming across the country to join us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So I just want to do like a quick poll of the audience. How many people here work for a company with less than 50 people in it? Okay. How about between 50 and 300? Okay. How about between 300 and 1,000? One guy. How about more than 1,000? Wow. All right. So I work for a company that has 5 people in it. So some of the stuff I'm going to talk about is probably going to be new, but hopefully, and we've learned a lot about being productive and being efficient because we had to, or else we wouldn't exist. And hopefully some of the lessons we learned, you guys can adapt for your own companies. So first, let me kind of illustrate what BackType is. What does our company do? And what we do is we help businesses understand social media and make use of it. We build 2 things. One is data services. So we provide a bunch of APIs so people can integrate our social data into their products. This is used by hundreds of companies, including like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Bitly. And then what we're really focused on is this social media analytics dashboard. This is a place that a marketer can come to understand what's the, just measure their social media impact. So we have a variety of APIs, that we can tell you, like for a URL, what's all the conversationing happening on that URL across like Twitter and blogs and Hacker News and Dig and Reddit. Search. You can search comments happening around the web. We can tell you like number of tweets for URL, influence scores for people on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. And here's some like images of our products. So if you go to our web page, there's this search box where we can search URLs, topics, or people. We can tell you a lot about a URL. We can tell you the engagement of the URL over time, like how much is it being tweeted, like is it being shared on Facebook. We can tell you what's the reach of the URL over time, so how many unique people are exposed to it. We can tell you who are the the most influential people sharing this URL, and then a variety of other stats. You can compare domains, just compare their social engagement. We compute things on individuals. This is our influencer profile page. So like this is Chris Sacca. He's pretty influential. We graph his followers over time, right? And then we compute the influence graph. So who are the people who most influence Chris Sacca and who are the interesting people that Chris Sacca influences. We do analytics on a Twitter account. So pretty simple, like what's the distribution of your followers. Then we do things like analyze all your tweets and determine what's the best time for you to tweet based on like what will maximize engagement. We just started doing some topic analysis. So like here we can see like how often is a topic being mentioned over time, who are the most influential people talking about this topic. This is another view in that data. So you can actually sort the tweets about this topic by like recency or the most influential people or the tweets that got retweeted. So we like have a lot of analytics that we do. Just to give you some stats. Our database contains more than 30 terabytes of data. We operate well actually that should say 200, but our cluster ranges between 100 and 200 machines depending on how we scale up or down for data. We process over 100 million messages per day, and we serve over 300 requests per second. And most importantly, we've done all this with 3 employees, 2 interns, and 1.4 million in funding. Although actually, that's a little deceptive because most of that money we got recently, so we actually did most of this with 300K in funding. And there's really 2 things that we are obsessed with that lets us be really productive and just build so much. And that is we avoid waste, we avoid working on things that people aren't going to care about or isn't going to give us the most value, and we constantly invest in our own efficiency. Like us as a team and as individuals, we are a lot more productive than we were a year ago. And a year ago, we were a lot more productive than we were before then. And I'm going to talk about what do we do to accomplish these 2 things. So first thing, like you may be wondering, is like, what's our development philosophy? Jeez, I gotta stop doing that. So you may be wondering, like, what do these guys do? How do we manage? How do we, how do we do our day-to-day tasks? So I can tell you, we don't use waterfall, we don't use agile, we don't use Scrum, we don't use Kanban. What we use is what I call suffering-oriented programming. And what this means is that we don't add any process until we feel the pain of not having that process, right? And then when we feel some pain, maybe we'll adapt things from Agile or Scrum, or we just take ideas from there, but we add the minimum amount of process that will then fix that problem, that pain that we were feeling. So here's an example. So I was the first hire of BackType. There's 2 founders, and they hired me. So we grew from 2 people to 3 people. Now, before I joined, the founders, they live together. They work on this stuff 24/7. They're kind of they're not really 2 people. They're kind of just like one brain with 2 people attached to it. And that's just how they operate. They're constantly in sync. They've known each other a long time. Then I joined. Obviously we don't know each other as well. I don't live with them. I live somewhere else, so I commute. And we started with basically just cowboy coding. It's we have this stuff to do, and then we just would do it. And we ran into some issues, right? They were constantly up to speed about what was important with the business, and sometimes that communication wouldn't happen with me because sometimes I worked from home, or just I wasn't constantly with them. So what we did is we added a meeting every 2 weeks where we just sync up on everything in the company. So not just about what we need to develop, but everything, the business, what's happening with hiring, fundraising. It's an hour-long meeting once every 2 weeks that fixed our problems, and that was all the process we had for a while. This January, we hired 2 interns. We got a new office, so we grew from 3 people to 5 people. And then we started running into, we were just operating with our bi-weekly meeting, and then we started running into some more pain, some pain we didn't have before. So what happened is we had now a lot more manpower, so we were doing things faster and building more things in a shorter amount of time. So what we found is that because we could do stuff faster, priorities would change faster, or because we had more manpower, we wanted to be able to adapt to things changing or customer feedback faster. So what we did is we added, we changed our bi-weekly meeting to a weekly meeting, and that helped a lot. And then still, even with the weekly meeting, we noticed that sometimes we were missing chances for people to help each other if they were working on the same project. So we took the idea of stand-ups, and we kind of modified it a little bit. So instead of doing traditional stand-ups where everyone meets in the morning and then goes around in a circle and says what they do, that wouldn't really work for us because everyone works at different times, and sometimes people work from home. So what we do instead is we have a chat room, channel, and when you log on for the day, you just say what you're going to work on that day. And then you know what other people are working on, and you have opportunities to help each other, or to tell someone oh, that's actually not important right now. And that's it. That's most of the process we have. There's one more thing I'll talk about a little bit later. And we'll just keep following this philosophy. So when we grow to 10 people, I'm sure we'll have more pain, and then we'll do the minimal thing that'll solve that. So suffering-oriented programming also applies to the actual creation of software. So likewise, we don't add new process until we feel the pain of not having it. We don't build new technology until we feel the pain of not having it. And basically, what this comes down to is that, let's say we have some new problem we need to solve that we don't really understand that well. We haven't really done this before. So first what we do is we just make it possible. We just build some solution that works. We just hack it out as fast as we can, just get something up and running. And what that does is that lets you then learn about the problem more. When any problem that you don't know that well, when you actually like work on it, you learn like the idiosyncrasies of it or things that you need to do in that space that you didn't understand before. Then after we have this hacky solution, then now we understand the problem domain. Now we understand what do we really need to be able to do these kind of things in the future much faster or in a better way. Right, so then I say, then you make the beautiful solution. Once you understand the problem domain, now you can build like the perfect interface, like the perfect solution that'll work really well. And then after all that, then you focus on performance and optimization and making it fast. So let me give you an example. So at BackType, we do a lot of like batch processing on large data sets. So when we started doing batch processing, it's like, we're using this new tool, Hadoop, and we didn't really understand it that well. But we had some things we wanted to do with it. So, first we made it possible. So we would hack things out just using like the straight APIs that were provided and this library called cascading. And that let us learn the ins and outs of batch processing. So one thing we learned is that you can do a traditional join on a Hadoop cluster. And it turns out there's a bunch of different ways you can do that join, and there's a bunch of situations where you can heavily optimize that join. We wouldn't have known this until we had actually encountered that subproblem of batch processing. So we learned about Bloom joins and replicated joins and how to do these things. It was a pain to do these things using this straight up stuff, but we at least learned these things.